The year is 1989. A wall fell down in Berlin. Madonna released the music video to Like a Prayer. Absolutely nothing happened in China. And Kawasaki has to produce a motorcycle that competes with Yamaha's FZR400, Suzuki's Gixxer 400, and Honda's legendary at the time CBR 400RR. The bike they came up with featured race-inspired styling, aggressive geometry, a hot Japanese girl, and premium parts, which helped garner a cult following that persists even now, nearly 30 years after the bike was discontinued. 27 years later, we're here with what Kawasaki have dubbed a revolutionary supersport. This is the 2025 Kawasaki ZX4-RR. Unprecedented power, intoxicating high RPM whale, and sharp nimble handling are just some of the words that Kawasaki uses to describe this bike. Now, they are certainly evocative of riding a super sport bike, but do they apply here, or are they lost in translation? So, as far as that burning question, do those terms apply to this bike? Well, yes, but also no. This is such a difficult bike for me to categorize. I like it a lot. I think it's really cool, but at the same time, it's built for enthusiasts, and I self-identify as a motorcycle enthusiast. So does it apply to me? Do I feel invigorated? Do I feel like I'm riding a revolutionary machine right now? Well, I wouldn't say revolutionary, because I have ridden the old 400s, and this feels like the same thing, just with a lot more creature comforts. Now, I've ridden a lot of the older 400s, and especially the 250s, and you're not getting ridiculous power here. You're not getting fantastic, incredible race bike suspension. You're not getting any of that stuff here, but what you are getting is a bike that has a lot of the creature comforts and safety features we've come to expect, but also that ridiculous fun that you can have by revving the tits off of something without losing your license or killing yourself because you're going 200 kilometers an hour. The engine on this bike revs to 1,000,000 RPM, 16,000 RPM before it starts bouncing off rev limiter like a mad cat that's been hit in the back of the head with a shovel. that wouldn't be moving. A cat that's been hit in the back of the head with a shovel would be dead, cunt. Now that rev limiter is crazy to me. That is so many RPMs, but you don't get any power at all until you get to about 14,000 RPM. So anything under 14,000 RPM is virtually useless on this bike. This engine is an absolute rev head's dream. I think that if you are someone who likes to cruise around at low RPM or enjoys mid-range power or torque, you need to avoid this bike because it's going to make you sick. Now, the electronics package on this bike is actually pretty cool. It comes with an up and down quick shifter, which you can switch on and off, switchable traction control, rider modes, and all that sort of thing. Doesn't come with cruise control. As far as I know, you can't option it either, which is really weird and also unfortunate considering it's almost identical in electronics look to the ZX10 and the ZX6. The traction control has this really cool feature. Now, notice here, I've just turned the bike on and it still says off. That's right. If you go into your rider mode and you set up your rider mode to have like full power and no traction control or level 2 traction control or whatever, the bike actually remembers that. and it doesn't turn it back on, which is fantastic for someone like me, but it could also cause problems if you just turn it off for a little bit to experiment or do a track day and you forget to turn it back on, because it won't turn on by itself. And if you think it's on when it's not, you give it a little bit too much gas out of a corner on a not so great day. See you later. Okay, so just like the last video, I'm going to do some viewer questions now. Now, these are questions you can send in. Whenever I do a review video on Instagram, at Send It With Shan, I post a story which has a little box. You can type in a question about the bikes that I'm reviewing. Every time I review one, I post a story up there and you can have a look, see what I'm doing. And if you have any questions about it, you can ask me that way. This is how these people have asked me. So the first question is the power delivery. How does this compare in power delivery to other 600s? Now, the power delivery on this bike, if you mean by power curve, as in how that comes on, is pretty much exactly the same as a R6. It's virtually the same as that. So there's like no power at all, starting to get a little bit, but still none. And then all of a sudden, at about 14,000 RPM, whoosh, you get all the power. Unfortunately, because you've only got about 2,000 RPM where that power is, this bike requires a lot of shifting and a lot of revving. If you're not a very fast rider, there's actually a big gap between the top of first and where the power comes on in second, where I feel like a lot of people are going to be riding at that speed. This bike really doesn't have a lot of power in that range. So if you're the type of person that's doing corners at like, 60, 70 kilometers an hour, I feel like you're really going to be missing out on this power. But any big long sweepers or straights, you'll definitely be able to open it up heaps. And as far as the power that there is there, it's pretty much just an R7 as far as power goes, like a de-restricted R7. It feels very similar to that level of power. It's just all up the top for a very short period of time, rather than how the R7 is kind of a more linear power curve. Okay, so the next question is maximum speed per gear. Now, I haven't actually tested anything over first, but first gear tops out at about 80 kilometers an hour. Okay, does it wheelie is another question. I get that on every bike, and I wheelie every bike that I review because I love doing wheelies. Yes, this does wheelie, but it's not very good at it. I couldn't get it to come up in second gear at all, but being a 400, I'm not really that surprised or upset by that. In first gear though, you've really got to be just before the power band to wheelie it. And then when you do wheelie it, it bounces straight up to balance point, and then it has no power at all to keep itself there. So basically, if you get this bike and then you don't know how to wheelie and you think you're going to be able to learn on it, you're not. You're just going to crash. If you already know how to wheelie, different story. You could probably get used to it. If you're really good at wheelies, you'll be fine. Now, the suspension on this bike is kind of a disappointment, at least on the front end. So the front end, you don't get any adjustability other than your basic preload adjustment. A bit of an oversight, considering they've managed to put the same shock in this bike as a ZX10R. So that does mean that you get full adjustability on the rear shock, but only preload on the front, which, it doesn't really need it being just a road bike. But if you are going to do any serious twisties on this thing, that is something that I would think about upgrading. So this is equipped with dual front rotors. They are rocking radial calipers. They are Kawasaki branded. I'm not sure who makes them. They're probably made by the same people that make all of Kawasaki's calipers, except obviously the ones that come with Brembos or, whatever else they've got. So the brakes are really good. Now, unfortunately, it does come with rubber lines instead of braided lines, and it doesn't have a radial master cylinder. It is just an axial master cylinder. Normally, I would say that's a bit of a miss, considering they went for radial calipers, but I can understand why they did that. It saves a bit of money because it's cheaper to run just rubber lines and a axial master cylinder rather than steel braided lines and a radial master cylinder. But this bike stops so well. I think the brakes are genuinely overpowered for the bike because it is kind of lightweight, 189 kilos. I'm not sure if that's wet or dry though, but 189 kilos with radial calipers, dual rotor front, all that sort of thing. This thing stops crazy good. It will absolutely stop on a dime. And the ABS, it is a little bit intrusive, but that's kind of what you want in an emergency situation. So, the Kawasaki ZX4-RR. Who is this bike for? I don't know, man. I think it's for someone who really likes little engines that rev a lot. Otherwise, I really can't recommend it to anybody. It's not the best at commuting. It's not the best in the hills. And for the price, considering it's not LAMS approved, you can get so many more bikes which will fulfill the itch that you're looking for. I mean, it's the same price as the CF Moto 675SR. And yes, okay, that's a 3-cylinder motorcycle, but it makes more power than this. It weighs about the same as this. Yes, you would have to modify it to make it super good at any particular thing, but you probably would have to do that with this too. This is basically the old Ninja 400 with a 4-cylinder engine in it. And the 4-cylinder engine, while it's good, it doesn't really offer anything for someone who's not a beginner rider. So if you're not an enthusiast, this isn't really the bike for you. And I don't see myself really ever wanting to own one because of that. It's cool, I like it. The MC22 and MC19 rider in me loves it to death, but I don't see myself ever buying one of these or owning one of these at all because I can't place it anywhere important when there's so many other bikes out there that fulfill everything this bike does, but better in their own respective category. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate every single one of you for making it this far to the end of the video. I'm looking forward to making lots more bike reviews, first ride impressions. Let me know if you like this style. Yes, it was a hell of a lot more effort to make than the normal POV and I'm just pointing at things and talking, but I do enjoy it and it is a lot of fun. And if you guys like it more, I'll do my best to create some more for you guys to keep watching. But remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. That competes with Honda's, at the time, incredible CBR 400RR. Fly, man. They came up with had crazy, the bike they came up with featured big titties following even today. 27 years later, I forgot the words.